So this is another episode of Kadampa Stories where I get a chance to talk to members of Kadampa Meditation Centre Australia's community about how they got interested in Dharma, how they practice Dharma, their favorite practice and so forth. And today I'm with Colleen, who is one of our teachers, someone that I've seen her teaching our foundation program, one of our more in-depth classes, and it's just amazing, like completely blew me away. I was teaching the same topic at the same time, and I thought, wow, that's so much better than I'm doing. It was such great teaching. So I'm really delighted to have this chance to have a conversation, find out more about your Dharma journey. So uh, let me know, how did you first find out? Were you in Australia? Were you how did you get interested and involved?
Yes, well, hi, good Martin. Wonderful to chat to you, and thanks for that kind intro. So I got interested in Dharma. It was about 12 years ago, and I was, a career focused, 30 something expat, a little bit disillusioned, but still on that career train. And a friend of my husband's was going up to the temple to KMCA on Sunday nights and doing a course on modern Buddhism. They were just going through the book Modern Buddhism, which was, I think at the time, new-ish. It may have been the book du jour,
Yeah, yeah,
I think, back
yeah,
then.
yeah, yeah, totally. Because that
Uh,
came out about 2010, so that would be exactly, yeah, just around then. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So she was raving about these classes just over a Sunday brunch, and her husband was like, "Oh, there's a branch class, around the corner from you. You should go check it out." And what's funny is that I wasn't looking for anything. And you know how people are always kind of recommending stuff to you, like, "Oh,
Mhm.
this thing, it's great, this class, that gym," like always recommending stuff. And you never really do anything about it because you're busy. Um, and for whatever reason, maybe that doesn't happen to you, Gunnar.
No, I'm busy too.
But so for some reason I just went, even though I normally, don't follow up on those things. And so it was in Fitzroy North, a branch class, which I think you may have started. And I couldn't tell you what it was about. I have no recollection of what it was about, but I just remember thinking, wow, this is interesting. Like, this
Hmm.
is just interesting. And then I went to a day course at the Northcote Town Hall. Again, I couldn't tell you what it was about, except that there was like a Doctor Who movie marathon happening in the room next to us. So
Uh,
I've got this strong memory of hearing that. And then the city center, the old center on Lonsdale Street, opened up
hmm.
like a month later, which was around the corner from where I was working. And I just started going to everything.
Fantastic.
Like everything. I was just there. I didn't have a family at the time, so I had loads of, time and no responsibilities. And I just went to everything. And then it took me about a year to actually say I'm in this, you know?
Uh-huh.
Like I was at everything, volunteering, like
Yeah,
doing
yeah, yeah.
offerings, but I hadn't jumped in, if you know
Uh-huh.
what I mean. I was like a little bit of a
Yeah.
tourist, you know?
Were there points or topics that you were like, I'm not sure if I'm there with that yet, and then at some point it clicked, or was it just?
No, it wasn't that. It was more I grew up not a religious person,
Hmm.
yeah, and always a little bit unsure. I don't want to use the word skeptical, but just unsure, and never thought that I would identify as a religious person, yeah.
Hmm.
And I mean, Buddhism, it is one of the world's religions,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It kind
right?
of
Like,
creeps up on you, like, gosh, I am religious now.
yeah, I mean, it's spiritual psychology, but it is one of
Yeah,
the
yeah,
world's major religions.
yeah. No, totally. Yeah.
So I think that's what I had to get over.
Yes.
And I think it was this, I just sort of realized, well, hang on, like this comes from somewhere, right? If I'm getting
Hmm.
so much out of just a little bit, what would happen if I actually dove in?
Yes.
And that's then I was off.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Was there a meditation or a particular topic where you felt that it really spoke to you? Like this is like I love this. Like, do you have, for example, do you have a favorite meditation now? And is it the same as what it was when you started, or?
Yeah, so the meditation, the first one that I remember doing, I don't know if it was the first one I did, but that I actually
Hmm.
remember doing because it made such a strong impression, was just the black and white breathing meditation.
Hmm.
And just what the power of imagination can do, and how uplifted and inspired you can feel just by changing the mind. There it is.
Hmm.
It's what we teach, it's what we read, but it was such a powerful experience of that I think that's still my favorite
I mean
meditation.
that there's that line in the chapter "What is Meditation?" when Mugesh is explaining the basic breathing meditation, and he says something like, "We can see from this practice that it's possible to experience peace and contentment just by changing the mind alone, without having to depend upon or change external circumstances." And it's such a major light bulb moment where you realize I can find happiness in the same situation that I was unhappy in. I just need to do something in my mind. Like it's just incredible that we can change so much without, from one point of view, changing anything, just by with the mind.
Or from another point of view, changing everything. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
If
yeah,
you
yeah.
adjust what's going on. And you can read it in a book, but we all know you've got to have that lived experience, your
Yes.
own light bulb moment.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Oh. And
yeah,
that was still quite early days. I mean, I hadn't made a decision to actually kind of jump in, but I think that that very much motivated me and encouraged me to just keep showing up. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I love those moments because at the beginning, when I first started, I would kind of get really keen and involved, and then my practice felt like it sort of a little bit fell apart. But then having those moments where experientially I'd reached something, and it was like it felt to me like bedrock. Like I can't deny that because I've had that
Mm.
experience. So the lowest I can fall is back to there, and then I can build up again.
Yeah. Oh, I
So
like that. The lowest I could fall is back to there. That's really nice.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, and then obviously, hopefully, over the years, where that is, like where that point is, kind of gets higher and higher along the
Mm.
journey. So yeah, have you? Has the way you've practiced changed? Because obviously, like you're talking about, you started, and then you were, you had a lot more freedom perhaps than you have now. Because now your life is quite full and busy in lots of different ways. So
It's changed a lot. Changed enormously. I went from being someone who was at everything, and I do really mean everything, like unless there was just something that came up, I was like everyday course. There were classes at the time on in the city on Friday evening, Saturday morning, Sunday morning. I was at least one of Saturday or Sunday, possibly also Friday, because that was working around the corner, Tuesday
Mhm.
nights. Like I was just there all the time. My husband was doing a uni degree, and so I don't think he even noticed that I wasn't around. Like it suited him that I was, happy
Yeah,
and absent, you know. Um, and yeah, that's life's a lot different now because we've got, a child, just one, but she's still a handful. And so, I'm not able to do, like publicly, if you will, nearly as much as I used to. And so, like, what I am able to get to is a lot more meaningful, but also my practice had to become not just about like being at classes and volunteering
hmm
and doing
hmm
jobs, but it had to become an actual, like, what it's supposed to be,
yeah,
inner work.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I had to actually just take my life and make it my practice, which is what, again, we all read, right? We know we're supposed to do, but
Uh-huh.
um, at least in my experience, it's only when you have to, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That you actually do. So, um, from one standpoint, I don't feel as involved as I used to be because I'm not as at many things, but I actually feel so much more connected to Geshe and to the tradition because I've had to just make my practice and my life my practice.
hmm And can you give an example? Like, how does that, like, on a daily basis, how does that manifest? How does
Yeah,
that
well,
appear?
they do say that children are like having a mirror to your mind,
Uh-huh.
right? And so, it's like, oh, this is what anger looks like. I've got to do something about it. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
here's an opportunity. Like this is what like patience will solve this problem. Let's do it
hmm
now. And I don't know because kids, their needs are so urgent. It's almost like Dharma is not optional.
Hmm.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
um, yeah, I mean, my experience probably prior to kind of being a working parent was that a lot of the difficulties you can just kind of swat away.
Yeah.
Not the really hard stuff, but just kind of day to day, the inconveniences. Like you don't even really realize that you're inconvenienced or frustrated because you're just like on to the
Hmm.
next thing. You know, there's this like low
Yeah.
level of kind of grumpiness going on that if you
Sure,
stop
sure,
and
sure.
recognize it's there.
Yeah.
But if you're not paying, you know what I mean? You're not paying attention to it, you don't notice it. But I find having a kid like that's just, you just can't be like that because their needs are so urgent and they've got this way of just getting at you.
Yeah.
Right? Like there's this connection that you have where they just know how to push every single button and like jump up and down on your last nerve, you know? Um, so it's like practice isn't optional. Yeah, like even
Hmm.
just getting to school, doing the school run in the morning, it's like a huge Dharma practice, you know, um, with all my marbles intact. Yeah. Um, and then when I do like sit down to practice, probably in the early days of being a working parent, I put a lot, like maybe too much pressure on my formal sessions because I was like, this is my time. Like
Hmm.
this is my moment, right? Like the
Yeah.
house
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
empty, right? Like work hasn't started yet, or you can skip that meeting. Yeah, sorry, but this is your window, and then it's not enjoyable, or it feels like there's
Right.
too much pressure.
Yeah.
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 So
Definitely.
I've had to just relax a whole lot. Yeah, and like still get on the cushion, but sort of accept that maybe on the day my practice is just my shrine's over here. I'm pointing like my practice is like
Hmm.
sort of sitting there looking at the shrine and seeing what happens. Yeah,
Yeah.
as opposed to what I used to do, like punch out a heart jewel. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So that was hard to accept. Hard to be like, oh well, you're still practicing. For a while, I didn't feel like I was.
Hmm.
Like kind of
Hmm.
ticking things off. Not that it should be about that, but I felt like I wasn't being able to do that. Um, so yeah, that was a long answer to your question. Yeah, it's always changing, right? Instead of having like a routine of when I do
Yeah.
things, it's more like you just snatch windows of time and then try to use Dharma or Lamrim in particular, yeah, like throughout the day, yeah.
And I think
More.
one of the really exciting things that you were touching on there is without Dharma, the situation feels like a problem. And then with Dharma, there's a way where we actually welcome it. Like we genuinely are happy for something which otherwise might seem just awful. Like,
Hmm.
the stresses, the strains, the demands, the button pressing. I'm sure many times in the actual moment it's very challenging. But with Dharma, then it feels like I actually need this. This is helping me. This is actually really helping me. This genuinely is
Mm.
getting me to become the person I'm capable of being. And, you know,
I feel like I need this mirror. Like I
yeah,
need this person to point out, not
yeah,
not
yeah, yeah,
directly, but indirectly to point out all the work there still is to do.
yeah, yeah. I mean, sometimes literally directly, like, so, like, like
Yeah.
you're angry. Oh,
Come on, mommy.
yeah,
That hurt my feelings.
yeah. And also, I think that point about how we do our practice, because it's really easy to get into a mindset where what matters is like getting it done or saying the words or keeping a commitment for the sake of keeping a commitment. And it's not necessarily feeding. Whereas that point where we sort of sit down and we check in with ourselves and where am I actually at and where can I go from here in this space and this time that I've got creates, I think, a much more authentic sort of lived practice. Yeah.
Well,
So,
again, one that had to be learned the hard way, unfortunately, like many things in life. Yeah.
yeah.
Like feeling frustrated and wondering why I was feeling frustrated, and then just realizing that maybe relaxing is the answer. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I can still maintain that commitment. Yeah.
Yes.
Um, but accept that it's different now. Like not letting myself off the hook, like still trying to like push, right?
Yeah.
But also relax. I mean, I guess I think I'm still working on that, if I'm honest, but um, that's been important.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think also just in general in life, like I've noticed if my mind is busy, everything takes longer. If I can get myself to a calm mind, then things just can happen in the time that's available. And similarly with Dharma practice, like if I'm pushing, trying to, okay, I've got this practice, I've got to do this formal practice, but I'm not in the right headspace, it could just drag on for ages. Like it's just not feeling right. But if I get myself kind of calm, faithful, it can just, everything just flows. So trying to
And
stay
then,
in
and
that.
then it's enjoyable, right? Which,
Yeah.
is what it's supposed to
Yeah,
be.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, 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 totally. Totally. Do you, as a parent, do you bring Dharma into parenting? Like, would you, okay, because I think that, a lot of people take different approaches with that. Do you talk very openly about your Buddhist faith and the things you believe and practice?
Yeah, it's an interesting one where like I put a lot of thought into it, and I'm very open with her about my beliefs, but also like I'm married to a non-practitioner
Hmm.
who like fortunately our values are aligned, right? Like we're aligned on nearly all things except for killing mosquitoes. That's kind of the one thing that we're not aligned on. But I have to respect the fact that this, what I'm conveying, are not necessarily our family's beliefs.
Right.
Yeah, it's my beliefs, and I feel like it's
Hmm.
my job to expose her, know that she has her own karma and her own path, and she'll make her own decisions. But
Hmm.
I want her to have, that opportunity to develop that connection. Um, and it is important to me that, whatever her beliefs are, like, because I care about her happiness, I want her to, as much as possible, live according to the law of karma.
Yeah.
So, like, I do make a big deal about the mosquitoes and the bugs that are annoying. Cool,
Yeah.
because I know that she's at a school with, people who do all sorts of things and kids who do all
Yeah.
sorts of things. So, you
Yeah.
know, that's something that maybe later on she'll tell me how she felt about how she was parented. But I do try to make a real point of, because I want like at least one person in her life where it's like we don't kill on purpose, like we never
Yeah.
kill intentionally, yeah. Um, and but without, hopefully, not being too full on. Yeah, like
Yeah.
I want her to just enjoy being at the temple when she's there and have a run around and connect with kids and just enjoy being around people who are kind. Yeah,
Hmm.
because people are really kind. It's
Yeah.
wonderful. It's wonderful going to
Yeah.
Dharma events. Yeah,
Absolutely.
lots of really kind people. Um, and yeah, so that she has the information, the opportunity, but without pushing it beyond that.
Yeah. Yeah. And that dynamic with a partner that's not a practitioner, is that comfortable? Is there ever any particular challenges there, or is that just something that's? Sorry if that's too personal,
Yeah,
by the
no, no, it's fine. It's fine.
way.
Open book. It's like, look, we're still married. I mean, it's mostly, I would say 98% of the time, perfectly fine. Yeah,
Mm.
because he's a very accepting and supportive person, and he's just naturally wired to be like, if I'm happy, he's happy, right? And
Hmm.
actually, he's been a real teacher to me in that department because, I don't think I was wired that way prior to Dharma,
Uh-huh.
right? And then I had this example in front of me, and I realized that he was already showing me that example. So um, it's mostly fine. Where it becomes maybe a little bit challenging sometimes is like there's this one time when we were really slack with the dishes for, I don't know, like a couple days. I mean, tell me you've never done that in your life, right?
No, no, no. Don't
Yeah,
even look in my kitchen.
you know, like maybe like 2 days, I don't know. And ants got into the kitchen
Oh
and they got into the
no.
dishwasher,
Oh.
and um and I was like, well, we can't kill them. We can't kill them. But
Yeah,
you know, he was like, well, what else do you want to do? you
yeah,
know?
yeah.
Um and then I think at one point he said like as soon as you leave, like I'm gonna solve this problem. Like, go out and shop. So I think I opened up the dishwasher and I took a spoon and I spent like a long time
Uh-huh.
spooning ants out of the
Yeah,
dishwasher. And he was
yeah,
like, "You're crazy.
yeah.
You're crazy." Yeah.
And
But I
yet,
mean,
and yet, such a beautiful thing to do. But yeah, I know. I mean, that's one of the reasons why like Dharma centers all over the world are so into prevention, because cure is really tricky. Like once like insects have come in, it's really difficult. And like obviously we invite people to come and stay who don't necessarily have the same kind of values, and they can get freaked out if there's like an infestation. And so we really want to try and make sure we don't have that. So there's a lot of cleaning and plastic sealed containers and all of that kind of stuff. But yeah,
Yeah. And again, learning the hard way when you let it get out of control.
yeah, yeah. That's right. That's
Yeah.
right.
So I think that's the only time there's actually been an issue. And then, he gets annoyed if I suggest he shouldn't be squatting mosquitoes. But of course, beyond that, fine.
Yeah, cool, cool. And how about teaching? Because you are, I know I said this in the intro, but it's true. You are an amazing teacher. Like the way you communicate is it's both heartfelt and incredibly like accessible and practical. When did you first start teaching? Is it something that you loved from the beginning? Have you had to really work at it? Like what's your teaching story?
I started in 2016. I had a really nice, like traditional journey in that I did simply meditate for quite a number of months. Libby, who was the EPC at the time, she observed me. I remember being like so wowed by her kindness because she
Hmm.
drove from KMCA in the Dandenong Ranges to the city to watch Simply Meditate, which I think it's 30 minutes. I mean, it's been a
Yeah,
long time, but I think it's a 30-minute
yeah,
class.
yeah,
Yeah. So 30 minutes to watch and give me feedback and then drive back home, and I just couldn't believe it. I remember saying like, wow, Libby, this is amazing. And she was like, it's really important for the center.
mm,
That's where her heart was. So,
yeah.
um, and I still remember a couple of things that she pointed out to me. And then I think I observed, there was a weekend meditation retreat that again, I think it was Libby who was teaching, but I like knew that I was going to be teaching more. So I spent that whole weekend just like observing and furiously taking notes and, just
Hmm.
like really uh, being there as a student, but also like observing the teacher and kind of picking up on things. And then, so I guess Simply Meditate was going okay. I mean, I was feeling really shaky and uncertain and, but, it must have been going okay. Yeah.
Hmm.
And then I got pregnant, and Gen Dorning asked me if I would teach a GP class. And I was like, well, there's a fly in the ointment. I'm pregnant. And he said, well, you can still teach. I was like, sure, I know that. I know, but I just want to let you know because there'll be a period of time when
Yeah,
I can't. And he's like, well, it's up to you. Like, if you don't want to, you don't have to, And I said, no, no,
yeah.
no, actually, I do. Who knows if the opportunity, who knows what will happen, right? If the opportunity is here, I should
Hmm.
take it forever, however long I have it. So, I started teaching in Fitzroy North. And it's hard. It was hard. Yeah, every week.
Hmm.
It felt like I was climbing a mountain every week and then had to climb a
Uh-huh.
mountain again. You always love the afterwards, that result, right? With those
Yeah.
blessings and feeling like people are like learning and getting something out of it and putting it into practice. Like that's amazing. Yeah.
Hmm.
But I wouldn't say it felt natural and easy and smooth. No.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's like for most of us, it's not a usual thing to sit in front of a group of people, and even just public speaking in general, let alone from the point of view of presenting Dharma. Like there's so many things that we have to work on in our mind to feel comfortable in that situation, and just to really know that it's not really about us. Obviously, it's all about Geshe. Like the more we get to that space where we're basically just sharing what we've heard, and that's the sort of a pathway to sort of gradually get more comfortable being in front of people, making suggestions about how they can live a happier life. It's sort of quite an unusual thing to do. Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like a bonkers responsibility, like a beautiful opportunity and also a bonkers responsibility because it's like,
Yeah.
well, hang on, I've got delusions, like I'm a work in progress. Like who am I to say what
Yeah.
anyone should or shouldn't
Yeah. Yeah.
be doing? But that's the beautiful thing about our tradition. Like we're just sharing what Geshe says,
Exactly.
right? All the work's been done.
Yeah.
Like the books are amazing. It's all there. We're just sharing that.
And there's that analogy that Venerable Geshe uses when he's talking about teaching, where he says if someone gives money to like a beggar, they're not making a declaration, I'm rich. They're just being generous. And in
Mm,
the same way, if we teach Dharma, we're not saying I'm enlightened or I'm some great meditation master or whatever. We're just being generous, we're being kind because we've received stuff that's helping us. And we're just, this has worked for me, this has been useful. I'm trying my best to do this. Maybe it'll help you. And it's sort of, that always really helps me to stay sort of like in a, not worry that I'm getting into some sort of role that's not appropriate, yeah, this has changed my life completely. And I'd love it if you got the same sort of things out as well. So yeah.
yeah, in that frame of mind, it is enjoyable, maybe not so smooth, but it's a beautiful opportunity. Yeah. I think I found it hard to get into that frame of mind just because of, which I think we all go through, just sort of grasping, self-doubt, just all
Of
of that
course. Yeah.
stuff that we're trying to get rid of.
Yeah. I mean, it's another scenario which shows us. It's another mirror.
Not
Like,
sure.
yeah. And it's like, wow, there's some work to do. It's great. It's great.
Whole lot of work to do.
Yeah. And it's also like a conscientiousness empowerment because if I'm going to say this to someone else, I, I better be trying to do this. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the best thing for accountability.
Yeah. Absolutely. And then coming up soon, you're teaching a day course. You've got so understanding ourselves and others,
Yes, and I think thriving in relationships may be
thriving
the
in relationships. Yeah,
sort of subhead.
subtitle. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, been mulling that over quite a bit. Mm.
I mean,
Yeah, it's
I love the title because thriving in relationships obviously is something that everybody wants in all of our relationships and all of our interactions. And then that key point, like understanding ourselves and others, like that's where it's at. Like if until we get who we are, until we have a sense of who other people are, no wonder there's problems. So it sort of seems like a really like it's sort of showing the solution. There's such depth to that. There's so many layers to figuring ourselves out and getting to be empathetic and insightful and understanding and forgiving of where other people are at. So
yeah,
yeah,
if we can do that, then our relationships will be smooth and constructive. But what we want, right?
yeah,
But our relationships are so often a source of frustration and anxiety, aren't they? Like a lack of relationship or an unsatisfying relationship
yeah.
or yeah,
And all
so
those expectations that put kind of pressure on it because with we want that person to be something that they're not or they're not easily able to be and then all of those tensions and frictions which is again is part of us not being at peace with ourselves and who we are and wanting someone else to feed something in ourselves that we need to be dealing with, and there's so many layers that I'm quite excited to
so
yeah.
many layers. Yeah, a real layer cake, that one.
Cool. Cool. Well, this has been lovely. It's been really nice to chat and to hear a little bit more of your story. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you next time you're up at the temple. And yeah, it's been great.
Oh,
So
thank you. Thank you, good
thank you
Rapton.
very
Thanks for
much.
the opportunity.
Yeah.
Been loving having you as our resident teacher. So thank you very
Oh, it's a
much.
pleasure, honestly. It's lovely. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Cool.
been great.
Thank you.